welcome back. Actually, Happy New Year, everybody, because it's been an intense 9-10 days for everybody, but we haven't seen each other so far. So, first of all, welcome back to International Corner. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Richard.
Happy New Year, and yeah, it's crazy really because there's so much football. I remember when Italy had this winter break that it's not the same anymore, is it quite? But yeah, so much football to catch up on because it has been a while.
It's been a while, actually, talking about an intense period of football games. I was in the UK and I went to the typical Boxing Day game. I went to watch a Stoke game, Stoke v Preston, and Preston is the city of Richard Hall. Did you watch that game on TV?
I saw highlights of it. Preston's very close to me. It's about half an hour away, and they're a very old club, as a Stoke actually. So it's as traditional English goes. That's a good one. Boxing Day football, Preston Stoke.
It was amazing.
I can't imagine the quality of the football was amazing, but still.
No, it was. I mean, the atmosphere was amazing because, in England there are all the canals, and then Stoke-on-Trent is full of canals. Obviously, the River Trent, and some geography lessons on England. And there is one thing that we do not have in Italy. If we do, please feel free to correct me. So, on the path that lead to the stadium, there are a lot of canals where you walk right next to them, and on the last bit, there are the river boats. You know the river boats? Yeah.
No boats, yeah.
Yeah. So on the river boats, you can have drinks, you can have cheese sandwich, the oat cakes. You know what oat cakes are?
I do. Unfortunately, I do.
Unfortunately, it's like...
Did you like them? Did you like them, honestly?
I mean, if I'm hungry, I like pretty much everything.
But Italian food and oat cakes, I mean, it's like...
It's like a piadina, if you've had piadina before. Yeah, it's like something like that, but it's hot and it's like freshly made, and they put bacon and cheese and brown sauce, which is not sold in Italy. And every time we go back to the UK, we got to bring some back. Anyway, it was an amazing experience at the stadium. It's something that I've never actually tried before because I don't think that boat is always there. And plus you get to see the game very, close up. I was like in the second row. I could hear what the players were saying to each other, and unfortunately, they could hear what the fans were saying to them. Not the best at times.
I would say that the nearest experience to in Italy that I've been to is probably the Marassi in Genoa.
Yeah.
It's probably the nearest thing that you get
probably,
to the stadium.
Probably, yes. Anyway, having said that, January for us, for Inter, is going to be jam-packed with games. We already had 2 games, Bologna and Parma. And of course, you got to experience a bit of the bad weather that we have here with the fog and the cold. It's been freezing cold here. And it's been, I would say, an excellent start of 2026 for Inter. Don't you agree?
Yeah, massively. Is it Campione Inverno, isn't it? I mean, that's a big thing for us. And I think that the funny thing was, I mean, I was unfortunately enough not to be in the stadium for the Parma game. But before that even, I mean, Inter have just come out of the blocks absolutely flying. I've been so impressed with the amount of chances that Inter have had and the intensity of the performances. You could say, should we have scored more goals? Potentially. But it's a really strange thing with Inter because I look at the moment, I think we could have won that game 7-0. We could have won this game 5-0. And because we're doing so well at the moment. Yet, when all's said and done, we are still 12 goals ahead of Milan, of how many goals we've scored. So we are really creating it. So, so many chances. And when you see, we've just been amazing. And if it wasn't for the goalkeeping displays we can see right there in Bologna, chances, I mean, I'm sure the fog didn't help in Parma, but it really is a good symbol of where Inter are heading right now. And it's that sort of aggression that you see from Kivu and that passion that's coming through to the team, in my opinion.
Yes, it was 19 shots for Inter, and with Parma, we'll get to that later, it's even more. So I think there's a kind of, the team shifted forward in a way from the defensive department, everything has been shifted forward, and that's because, of course, the defensive department has had a very strong impact with, of course, Akanji, who hasn't missed a game since his arrival. He's played 1,440 minutes since his arrival, and I've seen some things that he does that, he's not the typical Italian defender, as you call it, like the defender that man marks. He's able to move around the pitch and just pop up and basically knock you down. You can say that, legally.
Yeah.
Without you even noticing.
He's got more of that zonal aspect to him, and also as well, I think that compensates for what we're missing in some respects. Even though we can get on to the fact of how good the right-hand side for us has been, we obviously with Denzel in his situation, we've needed that sort of right-sided element to it. I think the consistency that he has is number one. The physicality you've alluded to is number two, but also as well the fact that he can break out, and because he's played under in teams like obviously the Manchester City team, his competency on the ball is exemplary, and he's certainly not overawed by the atmosphere or the situation or the vision into half. He's been exceptionally good at integrating quickly into his team. I just think the calmness that he exudes is brilliant for me, because to be able to come into such a team that's been together for a while now, and to be able to come in and not just fit in, but stand out and show that you're a main part of the team and a mainstay is a real boost of, a compliment, should I say, to his character.
You've got to think about this aspect as well, about his personality. You were saying about the fact he was able to integrate in the group pretty quickly. So he speaks, 3, 4, 5 languages. Every time we do an interview with another player, he can speak that language. So he can speak German, French, Italian, English. So he obviously can pick up conversations between the players. Sometimes it happens during training. The Dutch is speaking in Dutch, then the French. So that is a big advantage. But an advantage that he had in terms of tactics, I think, is with Guardiola. Of course, he was playing as well in midfield, so that gives you a whole different perspective on how also to build the action. We were talking about the braccetto not long ago. Do you remember? So a defender like Bastoni that can move up the field, and at the start of the season he was moving up a lot on the right. Now is on the center of the back, so the defense. So I think his contribution has been phenomenal, and a lot of the media saying he's going to be like the MVP of the Serie A. We don't know. It's hard also to evaluate a defender. Maybe you can go on the statistics and take a look. I don't know how many balls he's recovered, and I can tell you 63. But
I mean, when you mentioned that, you made a really good point there about the system under Guardiola. And when we look at players, if you look at someone like John Stones, for instance, who's a good example of a player who, sometimes he's had to play out of position. If you're playing for Guardiola, you have to adapt. You have to play within that system and play how he wants you to play. So your mindset has to be to sacrifice certain elements of yourself. And it also means that sometimes you have to play midfield. Sometimes you have to come in different situations. And, we've seen that a lot. We saw, even to the example when he originally got rid of Joe Hart because of his kicking, and he moved him out. Of course, he went to Torino in Italy. There's this element of Guardiola that he really pushes. So Akanji, being in that situation, will be used to taking direction well. And I think that's what's coming across, because he's fit into this system, because he's used to be, because like you said, he's so comfortable on the ball.
Yeah.
But it's one thing being multi-talented, is also having the mindset to understand that, and it's having the greatest good for the team. And I think that's his biggest asset.
If we go back to the game against Bologna, I want to focus a second on something I found extremely funny to watch. And it was actually Akanji involved in the action. I'm talking about Thuram's goal. And the way he celebrated back then. If we get to see it, it reminds me of a certain Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, the way he ran towards.
You love Rowan Atkinson. I'm thinking like, it's an international audience, so how do you explain Mr. Bean? I mean,
luckily, he doesn't play as Mr. Bean. But
No.
I don't know. It was like this touch that he had, that it was a bit random. Maybe it's like very fortunate touch that he had in the ball. So he celebrated like that. To me, yeah, no, it just happened. It was just so random. It was so
It's
cool.
like it's like almost the touch was awkward, and so
Yeah.
he so celebrated socially awkward.
Yeah, it was.
It was brilliant though. It's really good. Really funny. Really funny.
So up until now, including Bologna, including Parma, we'll move on into a minute. Basically, Inter have recorded sensational numbers. So we have won more away games in this area this season than any other team. Of course, we are facing Napoli at home, but still, that's some data that you don't want to miss, because you think about it now, on the second part of the season, we have a lot of home games. So in theory, the hard work of playing away has been very, very productive. Only in 2019-2020 season, we won more times, so 8 times, than today, than up to now in the top flight. What's missing still is we haven't done a draw. We haven't drawn a match yet. No draws. And there is this thing lingering now, of course, because we're facing Napoli and all the back to it. But let's see. Parma was. Have you ever been to Parma, by the way?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
Have you eaten? What have you eaten in Parma?
Oh, now you're asking. I think it was football. It was football based, so it's probably a whistle stop tour. It's only Bologna there and Florence that have really taken the food.
Come on, Parma ham.
No.
Parma ham.
White rabbit pasta. I remember. There you go.
White what?
White rabbit pasta.
White rabbit. Oh my gosh, no. I don't think that's like what would strike as a typical dish from Parma.
You wanted me to say Parma ham, didn't you? Or
yeah,
cheese?
Parma ham. That Parmesan cheese. Parma is an actual city, so that's why the produce that you enjoy on your tables during probably the festive season is actually from Parma. Anyway, Parma wasn't though so welcoming, although a lot of the people involved, the play for Inter and involved at Inter, see Parma as a previous home. Kivu, starting from Kivu, he's played a few games there in the first season back in the top flight for Parma. It did really well, and probably what he did there is what led to his arrival here at Inter, because he did really well there. And then, of course, Angie Bonni, who even managed to score a goal. Then, of course, the goal was disallowed because of Thuram's touch. Probably that was a Mr. Bean moment that he had. I don't know.
I thought with that point, I thought what I really liked about Inter then was, we'd had that many shots on target. We had that many shots in general, and it just felt like it could be a moment. There was a commentator in the UK who doesn't particularly watch a huge amount of Italian football, but he said something really, really quite succinct. And when he said that this is one of the moments when you watch this game in the fog that you'll go, that's where Inter won the title. I'm not saying that Inter will. I'm not getting ahead of ourselves, but I understand what he was saying, because right at that moment, Bonni scored, it gets disallowed, Parma put everybody forward. 2 minutes later, that could have easily, in some situations, the mind shift changes and you concede an equaliser. Yes. But instead, Inter go back with Thuram, score that goal. And you just found that was a defining moment. And I really agree with that. I think that's one of those games. Was it pretty? No. But I think we'll look back on that because it gives us a good chance now, and it gives us a mental strength to go into that game against Napoli.
It was 8 shots on target for Inter, and that tells you a lot, of course. And going back to this topic that you have raised, the fact that a game that could seem less significant than a big clash like tomorrow's game against Napoli, so the game against Parma, these games mean as much as a big clash, because in the end 3 points are 3 points. You know, obviously there is this big debate here in Italy. All the journalists always ask Kivu. So Inter have struggled quite a lot in big clashes against Milan, against Juventus, where they don't put the same sort of mentality, aggressiveness that they've put with Parma. But, you know, I think altogether, 3 points are 3 points. Sometimes you win a league title because you have thrashed the small teams. Small or, you know, not the big team, the top 5.
You're right. 3 points are 3 points. And was it, I can't remember the name, Berra, I think one of the old journalists always said that in Italy. Whereas the fact is that, you know, you can put narrative to anything right now. You know, if you look at it now, you could say, well, Inter, if a draw would be a great result against Napoli because of the situation, but it's still a point to point. So that result against Parma was massive. You can only beat what's in front of you. And I think that you mentioned another point as well about why Inter's away record is, you know, been so important. And it's because when teams come to San Siro, it's always going to be immensely difficult because of the fans, because of the stadium, because of the atmosphere. It's always going to be exceptionally hard for any team to come there. And so for us to have that away record, you know, you expect a good performance in San Siro.
You do.
So against Napoli now, they have it all to do. They've got to come here and get a result. And into what that result against Parma does is allow them to breathe, allow them to approach the game in the way that they want and we want, and hopefully control it in the right way. So, you know, the rest of it with the journalists, of course, it's narrative about big games and everything else. But whether you beat Juventus or you beat Sassuolo or whoever, you know, it's 3 points. And I think that, you know, at the moment, winter champions, and also as well looking the way we are, especially with the likes of Napoli at Hellas, Milan and Genoa, which was a crazy game. You know, it's looking good so far.
What's looking good as well, I was talking about the people that went back to Parma, so former players. Federico Di Marco, defender, scored. And I mean, there's a sensational stats as well about defenders that Inter are amongst the top clubs in Europe, top 5 clubs in Europe, who scored the most with defenders, which is not that common. Of course, we have faced this topic many times before, where, of course, we call Di Marco an esterno, so his defensive role is probably not as predominant as would be a Kanji or Bastoni or Acerbi. Of course, he shifts it in a 3-5-2 module. He shifts it back and forth. So, but that's a lot to say in how our 3-5-2 this year has really made an impact as well in terms of the defensive department. And what do you think about Di Marco this season? Because he's been playing a lot more.
No, massively. I think that 3-5-2 is obviously, you know, it's an adaptation the way Kivu looks at it, because with formations you can see the fact that sometimes obviously it's a 5 at the back and everything else. And I just think that at the moment with Kivu, we're a little more direct than we were under the past era. And Di Marco kind of enjoys that. I think we have the capabilities in midfield that fill into the back, that allow us to be able to let those wing backs go forwards, as we've always seen. And, you know, I've said for a long time that, you know, Inter are redefining the wing back position. You know, I think the work rate of all of our wing backs, especially Di Marco, you know, is incredible. The fact that they, you know, 1 minute you can see them winning the ball, next thing they've recovered it if they ever lose it, which is even more important for me sometimes than the goal contributions. But we've seen it with Dumfries and the amount of goals he's got. We've seen it obviously before the injury. We've seen it with Di Marco. And, you know, the one thing with him is just the ability he has with his technique is fantastic. And, you know, I know I've not compared him specifically to Andreas Bremer, but I've always loved a fullback who can score, wing back in this case. And he's a danger. And, you know, I mean, it gives the opposition, they have to think about that. Because when you have players like, obviously, Hakan's played well, Zelinski's playing well at the moment, of course. And then you look.
Yeah, that's another player we will have to talk about very soon.
Exactly.
Because, of course, he played at Napoli most of his football career. But yeah, Di Marco, I think also is improved a lot. The fact that he plays so much, so he plays a whole 90 minutes most of the times, has probably boosted his confidence. Not that he needed to, because of course he's very confident in his skills. But as Kivu has always been asked, let's not forget that after the UCL final back in Munich, the team really did have to work more on the mental aspect, and those veterans, so Di Marco, Darmian, Mkhitaryan, etc., they all had to sort of step up the mental game and find a new lease of life, a new confidence, and Kivu was the person that injected that. I have no idea how he's done it. I have no idea, because I think that for Kivu, more than the tactical approach, more than the schemes, and more than preparing each opponent week by week, the job that he's done so far, nobody would have bet on Inter being at the top of the table today after what happened in Munich. And I swear, probably no fans would have thought, oh yeah, we'll get back up.
No, I've got to be honest, I agree. Obviously, I was with yourself for Munich, and you know the feeling of it as well as I do, and all the Inter fans do. And it was then, with everything that happened afterwards, where are we going to go next? To be in the position we're in this situation is incredible, really. And like you say, I think it does go down to that vision. I think we go back to something. I think sometimes when you look at the culture of the club, and someone who knows the culture of the club, what it takes to play for the shirt, and I know it seems like a silly thing to say, but when you can ingrain an ethos into people, make them understand it, that the senior players take responsibility, and it is taking responsibility for your situation of what you're in, and ownership of mistakes as well as successes. And if they can do that, which they seem to be doing, it allows growth and the space for the young players to grow. And with Kivu having the expertise of knowing what young players have got the ability to come into the squad, he's giving them a safe environment to. So for me, it's really positive at the moment. And I have to say, and I know that maybe every Inter fan wouldn't agree with me this year because of what you said, because of the lack of expectancy, everything's a bonus this year. I think this is the beginning of a cycle again, of new growth. So yeah,
it's just important to hold on to what your principles of football are. You're preparing game by game, and of course not getting lost in all the debate, what the media say and all that. Kivu is very, very attentive to that. It always says, I know you've been talking about Luis Enrique, and that probably hasn't led him to having a lot of confidence in playing probably the first games. But, the confidence comes also from what you can do on the pitch, and what you can do and your abilities. So you have to be confident and work hard, get consistent results. Performance is more the results, because it's very, very precise on separating the two things. A result is something, the performance is something else. And sometimes, the game is determined by episodes rather than the performance that you put out there on the pitch. So sometimes you give it your all, but that's not enough, because episodes change the outcome of the game. There's a ball rolling on the pitch. The ball can roll in a fortunate, you were saying that it was kind of unexpected, but at this point, where this is the first game of the ritorno, we say. We have andata e ritorno in England. You don't do that. You say the first part of the league of the season and the second part of the season. Am I right?
Yeah, for you, it's the return of the league normally like after the winter break, because you're used to it. But yeah, in England, there's never normally that stops. So it's just continuous.
So the first match on the way back on the ritorno, we say, and we are leading with 42 points. AC Milan at 39. And Napoli in third place at 38. And if you look at it, we've always been like kind of neck and neck with the all leveled on the same points. And now it's stretched very slightly, but it has a little bit. And also, don't forget that we have a match in hand. So we haven't played all the available fixtures yet. On Wednesday, when we'll meet Lecce, then we will have all the matches played, all the matches available. So at least the top three squads have distanced themselves from the pack behind, if it's something. But then, of course, the important thing is to probably, yes, it's a big clash. It's a big clash. It's against Napoli. Winning it would mean a lot in terms of the confidence. Then you say, now for us, it's going to be downhill. We don't know yet, but it would be a strong message, of course. Napoli, on the other hand, they haven't had such a nice, let's say, start of 2026 with the match against Verona and, with a lot of drama on the pitch as well. I mean, they haven't found their bearings yet in the new year, and they've got a lot of injuries as well. So what team do you expect to find tomorrow?
I think what you'll find is a team that's going to have to do exactly what we expect. And I think that even the Neapolitans, the staff, the coaches, everything will know. There's no surprises for me tomorrow. They'll come at us hard and try and win the battle in midfield. That's how they're going to do this, because you're right, they are down to the bare bones. It's funny that the same criticism gets landed on certain people for not having a plan B, and Napoli at the moment don't seem to have that plan B. And I think that, you can have, when we all get over listen, I think that the world is still in shock. And this is no discredit to him, but like Scott McTominay, he's an incredible, I love the story. But
do you know what they call him now here in Napoli?
No, I don't.
So there is this word, it means brother, is fratema, and they call him McFratema. But yeah, it's incredible.
It sounds like an Italian way to order ice cream at McDonald's. But,
no. It's very, very heartful. Yeah, I would say very, very.
I'm joking. But no, if we shut down that midfield, I think you can stop him playing at the moment. And I think when you can take some solace from the way that Hellas played as well, against them, it was they when Napoli go for it, I think that if you can return fire as quickly, which Inter certainly have the capabilities to do, then with the atmosphere behind them at San Siro, I think the worst thing Inter could do in this game is be timid and think, listen, a draw could be okay because of the scenario, and it could, of course it could. But if you're asking me, the two things that worry me is that we approach this game too timidly, and also if we win this game, then we go into the next game against Lecce, as you say, a bit too complacent. But I think
I think that the attitude they've got now is something that you put on every time. You don't take it off. Once you've understood that works, it's very hard. You will have to have a very, very big upset. Going back to McTominay, he's had a fantastic 2025 with 18 goals, 8 assists between club and national squad, won a title, won the Supercoppa Italiana, won, of course, because, of course, that's what happened recently of positive there, but we kind of want to remember that the last time we won against Napoli was actually in the Supercoppa Italiana, when we won the Supercoppa Italiana. Do you remember that? 2024. Yeah. It's been ages. If we have the images of the Italian Super Cup 2024, we lifted that trophy. And then, back then, before that game, it's always been very much balanced in terms of results. So many 1-1 draws. So it's always been neck and neck against Napoli. Given last year as well, the last match day, that the result of the last game against Como and what they were playing could have changed who was going to come away from the season with the title on their heads. So that's the emotional involvement of the game, that we're going to face tomorrow. 2024 in January, it's a long time since we have won against them. And let's not forget that in the head of the players, there's also that back in October, we actually lost 3-1 against them at the Maradona. Totally different team. For us, I think it was still the beginning of the Kivus era. We have decided there's going to be a Kivus era. Who knows? But that was still the beginning, and things were completely different. Even Kivus said the side was completely different back then. Kevin De Bruyne as well. That is gone.
Well, yeah, there was a penalty, wasn't it, when he pulled his hamstring?
Yeah.
And this is the thing with Napoli. Again, into the one thing that we've mentioned so many times is the explosiveness, the never say die attitude, and the sort of consistency and that aggressive approach that Kivu's employing. I don't think Napoli can go toe to toe with us at that level, and we have the depth on the bench, which we've said for so many times, and Napoli don't. So I do think that they're going to try and hit us early, as I said before, and try and cancel out that game in the first half. And if Inter can almost fight fire with fire, I mean, I'm no tactician, I don't know, but I'm just trying to say that, we have the ability to play 1, 2, 3 different game plans, and Kivu's the man who will do that, not us speculating. But
he's also very able to adapt to what happens on the pitch. He's got a game plan, but he's very...
Exactly.
He says, okay, this is not working, they've done something else, I've got to change how things are working on the pitch. Listen, before we leave, everyone, we were talking about the games that have won the Scudetto. Last year we ended up at the last match day of the season to establish who won the Scudetto. I remember I've got one clear in my mind, the 22nd of April, where we won the derby against AC Milan, and that won us the 20th Scudetto. But back in 1989, there was another crucial game against Napoli. Do you want to pick this up, Richard?
Yeah, so I won't spend too long talking about it because it's super nostalgic, and it also embarrasses me as well because I was 9 years old and watching this in the UK. But yeah, Inter, it was a couple of games to go before the end of the season. It was a really crucial game. Basically, if Inter win this game, they are champions almost. It would just be out of sight of Napoli. And it was an incredible game. I mean, Careca, if you remember that team with Maradona, etc., Careca was one of the brilliant Brazilians. He scores, and looks like we're in a bit of trouble. This is the peak of Italian football, and Inter with the likes of Zenga, Berti, and everything else. I mean, we can see there. That was actually an own goal from Fusi. But you can see the squad that we had. It was amazing. The Spider Zenga was fantastic that game. But this free kick, the Matteus free kick, was one of the ones that lives in the memory of all of Inter. It broke a record that, Inter's points total. It was a long time since we won the Scudetto. It was an incredible moment, incredible time. I mean, that Missouri kit, still behind me here. I've got that goalkeeper top somewhere from the time. That was the time before Klinsmann joined, but you still had Brahim, you still had Diaz, you still had Matteus, Bergami, Ferri. That team lists off for me. That was the team that made me fall in love with Inter. And that title, and Trapattoni at the time, it was a huge one. It was a great era for Italian football. And if we can anything like that result, I'm not saying it'll clinch a title, but it'll certainly be a marker.
It was the record-breaking title with 58 points. I think they've collected during that season. It was in that era. It was kind of astonishing. But yeah, this season though, we won't have a situation like that because we play Napoli in the first game on the way back on the ritorno. So there won't be. This game could decide the title, but who knows? Not mathematically, at least.
Not mathematically.
Yet. On emotion-wise, which is something that Kivu is really got a heart. Looking at the players, not just at machines on the pitch, but he always says they are humans too. They are human beings. Yeah. They need to have confidence. You need to be close to them, talk to them. We need to look at each other's eyes to understand what's going on and say things straight forward as they are. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Tomorrow night, big night at San Siro. Please. Fingers crossed for everybody. I don't know. I don't know what to say in this case. You don't want to say something that is going to be taken.
You will. All I can say is you will get messages tomorrow night. I was quite calm against Parma.
Tomorrow night, big game ahead. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Richard Hall, for being with us and take a little bit of Serie A and Inter outside of the Milan province. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Ciao for now.